Hey there, it's Anne. One of my girlfriends had reached out to me at the beginning of the week and had wanted me to review some sales copy that she was going to send out to her list. And she was pretty concerned about the sales copy because she put a pretty big chunk of a story about her past in this email. And she was really reluctant to send that out because it felt like too much. It was too much story. And she used a really interesting phrase, which got me thinking about what I wanted to talk to you about today. And she said, I am just really aware that nobody wants to read my shit. So sometime back in 2016, Stephen Pressfield wrote a book called Nobody Wants to Read Your Shit. And it was kind of a scary book for anybody who wants to write a book, because the idea that you were going to put all this time and energy into writing this book and then you were going to send it out there and that people were going to avoid reading it, or that they were going to go, oh my God, now I got to read this woman's shit, is really, really off-putting, because we don't want to do that to people. So I wanted to read a little bit about an excerpt from Stephen Pressfield's book. And he said this, nobody, sight unseen. All right, in the real world, no one is waiting to read what you've written. Sight unseen, they hate what you've written. Why? Because they might have to actually read it. Nobody wants to read anything. Let me repeat that. Nobody, not even your dog or your mother, has the slightest interest in your commercial for Rice Krispies or Delco batteries, nor does anybody care about your one-act play or your Facebook page or your new sesame chicken joint at Canal and Chopsky's. It isn't that people are mean or cruel. They're just busy. Nobody wants to read your shit. What's the answer? 1, streamline your message, focus it, and pare it down to its simplest, clearest, easiest to understand form. 2, make its expression fun or sexy or interesting or scary or informative. Make it so compelling that a person would have to be crazy not to read it. 3, apply that to all forms of writing or art or commerce. When you understand that nobody wants to read your shit, your mind becomes powerfully concentrated. You begin to understand that writing and reading is, above all, a transaction. The reader donates his time and attention, which are supremely valuable commodities. In return, you, the writer, must give him something worthy of his gift to you. Okay, tall order. So, as a writer, I remember taking my manuscript. It was a memoir about my years living in Iran, and approaching publishers and approaching agents at this big, kind of a big writer's retreat. And I remember sitting down in front of this one agent, and she said, okay, tell me about your book. And I said, I think I used every cliche on the planet because I didn't understand that what I was saying was a cliche. I truly did not understand that what I was saying was a cliche. So it was, this is for everybody. This is for anybody who, thinks that they should make a man their plan. And it's really for women between the ages of 16 and maybe 60. And it's a coming of age story. And it's, I don't know, what did I say? It's Annie Lamott meets such and such a author that was really popular at the time when I was pitching this memoir. And I must have gotten about 30 seconds in, and I looked up at this agent, and she just was immediately shut down. She'd heard this trite stuff coming out of people's mouths, from time immemorial, and I hadn't been where she is. And as a publisher now, I have a lot of people come to me with their book ideas, and I can feel myself shutting down because a lot of people have amazing stories, or they think that they have amazing stories, and they have stories about trauma. They have stories about being raped and, being divorced and rising like a phoenix from the ashes and pivoting from one, ordeal of a marriage into another ordeal of a marriage. Or there's some aspect that they feel is really exciting about their story. And I just ask a couple of questions like, who is this for? And it's for everybody. It's for women from the ages of 16 to 60. It's my dramatic story, and it's, I've lived this really extreme life, and people tell me I should write a book all the time. Okay, I heard this back in writing school. We're all saying this in writing school. So does that mean that these people don't have a story worthy of sharing? Absolutely not. But the problem is that they have not crafted it. They have not shaped it. They have not boiled it down to its essence. They have not decided what the major arc of the story is. They haven't understood the purpose of the story yet, the big transition or the big transformation, I should say, for them as a character in this story or for their reader. They just want to tell about how bad their life was. So it's great starting material, but it's not great ending material. It's not publishable yet because it hasn't been crafted. It hasn't been made interesting. It hasn't been turned into, syrup, the syrup of someone's life. So in business, we often will use our personal stories as a vehicle to share our framework. And again, the same thing holds for if that personal story that we share with people. Sometimes we overburden our prescriptive nonfiction book with the story that we share with our people because we want to be the hero and we want to show people that we're the rags to riches character. We have overcome something so that we deeply understand them, but the stories aren't properly shaped yet. The lessons off the back of them aren't properly shaped yet. Or if somebody is fairly new to business, they have what I call a lot of musings. They have a lot of ideas that have begun to percolate for their business and for their clients, but they don't really have a framework yet. They really don't know what problem they solve or for whom they solve this problem. And what happens is I'll open up the book and I just see these random musings. And it comes back to what Stephen Pressfield said. It's boiling it down, understanding the thing that you mean to impart and to whom you mean to impart in such a clear, precise manner. It's making the reading fun, making the writing interesting. And that's craft. That's not something you whip off in 10 minutes. It's something that you work through in multiple drafts and then it shows up. And in this quick culture that we have of we got to have it now, no wonder people don't want to read our shit because we haven't spent the time crafting it. And we haven't figured out what message we mean to leave a reader with. And we haven't given an equal amount of value to the time that our reader invests in us. So do you have to have this big, crazy, traumatic story of, being raped when you're 6? And no, I mean, first of all, that's not enough. Second of all, you don't actually need that you can take the most mundane stories. And I think of the memoir, Tender at the Bar. Nothing horrible happens to this guy, but he writes the most incredible memoir. He makes sense of his life. He makes it valuable for his reader, and there's nothing dramatic that happens there. He's not somebody who, has come off this horrific experience in life that, you tend to see when you're in writing workshops. The stuff people have endured would blow your mind. But you got to craft it for a reader. And you can do that. And it does take a little bit of time. So, maybe you're afraid that people don't want to read your shit. And I say, congratulations that you feel that way, that you know that to be true. And that's the first step to diving in and doing the work of taking your story and boiling it down to its syrup and making it meaningful for the reader and for yourself.